Bernie Sanders, your favorite senator, right? Bernie's on a roll. So let's start with this this graph that Bernie published. He tweeted this. Let's see if I can put this up. Oh, I don't know if you can see this. This is a Bernie tweet. The tweet says, "It is insane that the richest country in the world, millions can't afford a home and hundreds of thousands are homeless every night. We need major investments in affordable housing, not tax breaks for billionaires." That's standard Bernie line. But this is the graph he publishes, right? You know, let's see if I can get it all into the screen so you guys can see it. I think you can see that. It says at the top, I'll just go down, it's harder than ever to afford a home. And this is what he's comparing. The blue graph, the line going up, is median home prices. And the red graph, way down below, that is basically just flat, is real weekly wages. On the same scale. Not two scales, same scale. So even if weekly median, even if real weekly wages went up a lot, hundreds of percent, you wouldn't see it on this scale. Because the reality is that the scale starts at like 200,000. And weekly wages are never going to be that high. Oh, well, don't say never, right? In laissez-faire capitalism, they might be. But median wages are not that high. So this is just lying. It's just bizarre. And so you've got the red line is flat. It's flat because on the scale as presented in the graph, there's no change. But that's at the scale presented in the graph. That's exactly the point, right? And this looks horrific. It looks on this that real weekly wages have not gone up at all, and housing prices have more than doubled. And this is from 1967. And that's just a lie. It's just a lie. It's just deception. It's just marketing to fool people. So let's look. This is from a blog post by Noah Smith. But I'd seen this graph on Twitter earlier, and it was ridiculous from the beginning. So let's look at some stats, right? Here's, oops, let me straighten this out so you can see it better. This is median sell price of houses divided by median personal income. So this is median price of a home divided by median personal income. And you can see that, yeah, it's up. That home prices relative to income are up. But nowhere near as much as Bernie Sanders, nowhere near kind of the hysteria or the demagoguery of what Bernie Sanders is claiming. Yeah, we all know it's much more expensive today to buy a home than it was in the 1970s. But not that much more expensive. Because while home prices have doubled, earnings have gone up as well, significantly during that period. So right now, what is this saying? In the 80s and 90s, it took about 8 years of work to afford a home. Since then, it's climbed to about 10 years to afford a home. All right, that's more. So in the 80s and 90s, you had to work for 8 or 9 years to afford a median home. You had to work 8 years to afford a median home. Today, it's 10 years. So it's gone up, by 25%. And that's not good. It shouldn't go up at all. If supply kept up with demand, then it wouldn't go up at all. But it has. All right. But is this the kind of panicky of a Bernie Sanders? No. And if you look at where the challenge is, if you look at mortgages, because right now interest rates on mortgages are relatively high, they are. But the reality is that in terms of the monthly burden, that is what percentage of your hours of work per month does a mortgage cost you? It's about the same as it was in the mid 2000s, and it's below what it was in the 1980s, and even in the late 1980s. So historically, mortgages are not that expensive. Not if you look back enough. And then if you look at the down payment, that's where the big difference is. So it's much more expensive. It's much more difficult today to make the down payment, which shows you that interest rates, as high as they are today, are relatively low as compared to what they were in the 1980s. So most of the burden in terms of working hours, in terms of years to work, is borne in order to achieve the down payment. Just thought you'd find that interesting. And again, home prices are way more expensive than they should be, particularly on the coasts, particularly in the West, in the Western United States, kind of Colorado West. They're very expensive. And the reason is supply. The reason is almost exclusively supply. And supply not matching demand, in other words. There's lots of demand to live in those places, and you can argue about why do people want to live in California, but they do. And then the question is, why is supply not keeping up with demand? And that has to do with regulations and zoning and everything else. So Bernie's just panicking everybody and hysteria and being upset, but this is typical of the kind of economic lies that the left constantly tells us. But of course that the right now shares in terms of how bad the economy is. Things are always presented by them as much worse than they really are. Just one other comment about Bernie. He's also on video today being asked about whether Hamas has any culpability in people starving, and he basically says no. It's 100% Israel's fault. Right? So there is no responsibility on the part of Hamas for starvation in the Gaza Strip. And he knows exactly what he's doing, and he knows exactly what he's saying. But that's the kind of morality that you get.